So in talking a little bit of football today, which we did, we kind of got into the topic of the off-season. And the off-season is now, the 5 weeks that pretty much go on now where guys don't have control over the players. And some guys have gone and looked back and said, I think there are 27 or 28 major arrests that have taken place in the NFL off-season. And you hear comparisons, and this is something that bothers both of us. You know, you'll hear comparisons this to, well, society's averages. Football's just a mirror of society, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Stuff that I think is absolute nonsense. It's not a mirror of society, number one. You have all this money that most guys are making in there, number two. You have all this infrastructure out there to prevent things from going wrong, number three. You have such a short career that you're looking at, only a 2 or 3 year period that you can mess up. To me, it's not the same thing to compare the numbers to society. And I like you, I'm amazed that so many guys have gotten in trouble.
Oh, to me, it's absurd. You can talk about, well, they're kids. No, they're not. They're adults. They're young men, but they're adults. All right, you know, and the idea that somehow, some way, they should be excused when it comes to DUI or it's drugs or they're getting into fights or whatever the infraction is, because they're kids. That one drives me nuts. But yeah, the percentage of athletes that get in trouble compared to society, they're not normal society.
No.
As much as some out there will say, well, that's not fair. They're being held to a different standard. Yes, they are.
Correct.
Yes, they are.
It's part of the deal. It's what you sign up for.
That's part. Listen, that's in exchange for the charmed existence you live for that average of 3.5 years. That's the NFL average. And yeah, you're going to be asked to do different things than ordinary guy walking down the street. You're going to be held to a different standard. In exchange for that, you're going to make ridiculous amounts of money that most of us could never dream of making. You're going to be treated in a fashion that most of us could never dream of being treated. That's the payoff. That's the exchange there. So to say they should be measured against how society functions on an everyday basis for a guy who's an accountant or a guy who works in a restaurant is absolutely absurd. They're expected to do more. They get paid to do more. So that, you know, the idea that, well, 28 arrests and X number of players, that's bogus. That's too much. It's too much.
It is mystifying too when you know, and everyone in there knows how short the career can be, knows how small the window is. Now, understand the pressures, and look, you know, a bigger part of this is getting handed a lot of things without any experience when you're 21 years old, getting all this money if you're coming from a poor neighborhood or something like that, trying to figure out how to handle it as a young person. I mean, we're not immune to that. I mean, there is something to that. But what's set up for those guys? You know, you can make a phone call. If you're in any circumstance, if you're an NFL player, and you can get picked up wherever you are, no questions asked. They have all kinds of things in there in order to make those decisions easier for you. So yeah. Sure, there's some pressure to it. We're not taking that away, but there are all these cushions built, all these stops that are built in if you're playing in the NFL, if you're playing in pro sports, versus those of us who aren't. That to me, again, make the argument just as crazy.
Yeah, or you could just bring the party back to your house. You don't have to drive drunk. You can bring it to your house.
That's a good idea. We'll come.